realize that it's not a Google Doc. So I hope none of you have problems accessing it if you are trying to. But it's a lighter agenda this week than in past weeks. I didn't have a ton of new items to add, but Janelle had a couple. So if anybody of you want me to share my screen, I'm happy to share the screen so we're all looking at the same document, but it seems our group is better off seeing our smiling faces. And if any of you want to open the document, you can just open it on your own screen and toggle. So just let me know if you want me to share the screen, but otherwise I won't. So Janelle, if you want to the first thing, as I have at the top of the screen is, we try to avoid the bureaucratic Robert's rules and other annoying meetings kind of routines, but I am supposed to, according to the village and the town, approve just get us to approve minutes from the previous meeting. So anybody have any objections to approving the minutes from January?
I read them today and I propose they be accepted.
Awesome. The fact that one person even read them is that's a small victory right there. And I'm trying to get better. I know I can be long-winded with my writing. I'm trying to get better at just keeping the minutes short and to the point. So I think those minutes were pretty brief. Okay, so yeah, it sounds like nobody objects, so we're good for that. And then if you want to kick it off, Janelle, you had 2 late additions to the agenda, and we can grab those first.
Yes, and this is information sent to me by Dan Sirachi. He was the trainer that we had at our Complete Streets training back in about October 2019. Can't believe it's that long ago already. And we've kept in touch over time, and he wanted us to be aware of 2 opportunities that are coming up real fast. And I didn't want to make a unilateral decision, of course, so I'm bringing it to the group to see what interest there may or may not be. The first is the Walkability Action Institute. And there was a longer description of it and that I think Dan shared with you. So just, unfortunately, it's quite a few pages long, so I'm just going to hit the highlights here. It's by the National Association of Chronic Disease Directors, and it's New York State Physical Activity and Nutrition Program Step It Up, Virtual Walkability Action Institute. So in a nutshell, it's from April to August. So it's coming up real fast. And what you have to do is submit a plan, and you have to have commitment by at least 4, but no more than 8 team members. And you have to participate in the orientation, do several webinars, attend an action institute. I'm assuming all this is virtual from July 19th to the 22nd, and a post-course webinar, and have an action strategy. I read through the 6 pages. I don't know if anybody else did, but I got a little overwhelmed, I must admit. I thought, gosh, it's not like we have a health department here in New Paltz, or some of the logical additional team members, like they suggest people that we could partner with in the region would be business, economic development, education, parks and recreation, public housing, public transport, law enforcement. I just kind of wonder, maybe I'm not thinking big enough, but if it might be too much for the little town of New Paltz to pull this off on such short notice. And I also would wonder, what project, what project would we do? You have to develop a team action plan. Perhaps that doesn't have to be done immediately, but you do have to submit an application form and a letter of commitment from each team member by, what is the date on that? I am looking, team action plan. Okay, one email, sorry, February 26th. What day is today? Today is the 22nd. By Friday, we would have to submit an email basically saying that we're interested and who our team members would be. We wouldn't have to have the project. And then there is, I'm looking for the funds that are available. I think it was up around maybe.
It was up to $4,000.
Yeah. but I'm like, okay, what would the project be? And I'll be quiet while others react.
So Janelle, I think, a lot of this, it seems, so the NPO that they talk about is that would be, I think for us, it would be the Ulster County Area Transportation Council, which the town supervisors are on, and then Dennis Doyle, the planner, and some people from DOT. It seems like this would be more geared towards that level, like a regional focus.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea if they have any interest in this?
I mean, the level of commitment seems huge for this, and I'm really not sure they never really gave a summary of what you get out of it. I don't know, or what I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, what's the point? So, I mean, in general, it seems like it's, pulling different concepts together and trying to, synthesize some sort of plan that integrates all, public health and walkability and, DOT and everything else. But it just seemed like maybe they need it. Maybe we're missing the part of the document. That's just my thought.
Well, I too, I mean, I read, at least skimmed the whole entire 6 pages, and I still was left like, well, what exactly would a project look like? Well, what did we do? Short of buying 100 pairs of tennis shoes, I mean, but I thought, I'm going to bring it to the group because other minds may go, wait, I got a great idea. We could do X, Y, Z. So,
Janelle, did you talk with them? The person who sent it to you, Dan Sirachi, did you talk with him about this?
I did not yet. What I thought I'd do, he just sent this. I responded to him individually last week, and then after I got a reaction from you all, see what we wanted, what we wanted to do, that I would reach out to him this week.
Yeah, because it seems to me that having been involved last year, he knows a lot of the situation here, and maybe he could sort of explain how he sees this being of value to us, because that's what he's saying to you. He's sending you this because he thinks it would be useful. How would it be useful? Like, I think we need some input from Dan. Why, knowing what he knows about the positives in our community, about the restrictions that we have to face, that all the things that make things harder to have good pedestrian and good bicycle access in the community. So, I'd like to know what he thinks about this, why he sent it.
Well, the first one is just walkability. What I was just talking about was just purely walkable. The second one that he sent down, the intersection action plan, that's a completely separate program. And
Yeah,
that's through NYSERDA. And
Actually, Neil hit the nail on the head there, because it is really a responsibility of the county to do this. And Dutchess County did an extensive bike plan. And I can send you a copy of it. You can get it from Emily Dozier, but it's really a magisterial project they did. And they paid for it with their MPO funds. She's the chair of their MPO in Dutchess County. And because I'd asked, like, how did you pay for this thing? It's because it's a fantastic report. She said, well, the MPO, you should ask Dennis to do one for you. So, and they tackled all these exact issues, where, in fact, they even hired this a great study done called an imputed demand model for sidewalks. Because like here in our county, there's a lot of places there that don't have sidewalks. So how do you determine how many people will use a sidewalk that isn't there? And, a young economist actually came up with a modeling technique to look at exactly that issue. I mean, so anyway, it's really a county, the expertise level is at the county, not here. And the commitment of time is enormous without any deliverable.
yeah. And who would the county people be that we would reach out to?
Brian Slack And Dennis Doyle. I mean, Brian Slack's a transportation planner, and he is actually technically, I think, supposed to be chairing the MPO meetings.
Mhm.
And actually, Emily Dozier is, there's a New York State Association of MPOs. There's 14 of them. And she chairs specifically a bike pedestrian working group. And they meet quarterly. And there's been great presentations by many of the state's regional DOTs. I went through and looked at the work they had done over the years, and it's pretty significant, and it's great attendance. Unfortunately, the one missing region is DOT Region 8. They have not been
Yes.
meeting in 4 years, and
Right.
and that was true of our Trail Advisory Committee here in the county. DOT didn't send a person there for 4 years, so that's the other big bottleneck. So the money for a study, the county, they could, this is their bailiwick.
So Michael, would you recommend that we nudge the
Brian.
county in some way to copy what Duchess did?
Yeah.
So what's the best way to do that? Is it through our elected officials contacting Brian Slack? Is it through us as a committee writing a letter of advocacy, or just having one of us do an informal reach out to?
I would, this is Neil, I would say get a copy of the Duchess plan, and I'd send it to, so they, once a year, they take proposals for projects. So that'll be next December. And I would say, start early and say, look, we really like this plan. What do you guys think about having Ulster County do a similar plan like this? And the proposals are easy. I've written one. We didn't write one this year because I think I wrote one 3 years in a row for a bike ped master plan for New Paltz, and it never made the cut. So we kind of gave up on it this year because we're overwhelmed with other stuff. But New Paltz gets this is the group that paid for the rail trail study in New Paltz, and so it's a planning, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO. They don't pay for work, but they'll pay for plans. So the type of study that Duchess did would fit under something that they would pay for.
Who is
also
is the MPO at the state level or federal level?
It's
or
kind of
nonprofit?
county, so it's the Ulster County Transportation Council, the UCTC, and they have a, if you just Google Ulster County Transportation Council, the website will come up. They have meetings a couple times a year. Brian Slack, it's like he works under Dennis Doyle, who's the Ulster County planner, and he's very bike friendly, bike ped friendly.
And it would be to propose specifically what kind of a plan? Would it be specifically a walkability plan that we would be seeking? We would be asking. We'd be asking the county to apply, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could say, I think the easiest way would, we get the plan from Duchess that Michael talked about, and we kind of bring it up and say, is this the type of thing that Ulster County would be interested in doing? And we can write a proposal for it next year, submit it, or if they may not even need a proposal, and they say, yeah, this is really good,
Yeah, I'm getting.
And we would be would we be the town, or would we be kind of a bike ped committee working with town and village? Or
yeah, I'm happy to be be an advocate for it, or at least approach Brian and see what he thinks about it. He's a good guy, open-minded.
sorry, just to be.
He'll give us some. I think if we get a copy of this report and we just kind of run it by him and just kind of feel them out, in the end they decide. So I don't want to, I don't want to go through the trouble of writing the proposal if it's not something they're even interested in considering. You know what I mean? So I think, we show the proposal, say the bike ped kind of brought this idea up. We like what they did in Dutchess. Would Ulster County be interested in doing something like this, using some planning funds for it?
I'm getting a little lost because I thought we were talking about the Walkability Action Institute, and this seems to come separate.
I don't think the Walkability Action Institute would. I just don't see that flying at all. When I look through the requirements for it, you'd have to have someone from the NPO, someone from the health department, someone from DOT, an elected official, and they would have to attend every single class for 4 days.
Yeah.
At that, and I like, there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
No,
I just
go
I
ahead.
get rid of volunteers.
I've been thinking about the
especially
word.
when
Yeah, go ahead.
especially when I don't see what they're offering. Like, I don't see what the walkability thing is even about. I don't know how we would convince anyone to commit by this Friday to spend that amount of time for $4,000. I mean, just the salaries of the people involved is probably that much to have them go to this 4-day workshop.
Yeah.
I want to say something about walkability, because it's not abstract.
Well, let me just
It's
quickly say, Dan, I sent you that document, the Dutchess walk bike thing. It's a 35 megabyte document, so it went as a Google Drive link, so you can download it and then distribute it or put it on your Google Docs. It's a 2014 study they've done. So anyway, when you take a look at it, maybe that'll address some of the issues that a lot of people have, and it's a really great job.
And when did you send that? Was it very recent?
Yeah, just now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll move that into our shared folder then.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be interesting.
Okay. Can I say something about walkability? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're on.
Over the years, over the many years that I've sat with this committee every month, the walkability issues have been recurring. When we have a winter time, walking is hard because the sidewalks are covered with snow most of the time, or crucial parts of the sidewalks. So that's been an ongoing issue. And when the snow is not an issue, broken sidewalks that people can trip over and so forth is an issue. All of the deterrents to people being able to walk around town, absence of sidewalks, cars parked all over the place and so forth. It's been there for years and years and years. Is there a plan to change that could change that? Because the people who run the town, the politicians and so forth, they know this. It's not an issue. It's not a mysterious issue. And things do happen a little bit at a time, but not much. So the issue is, how do we address this? How do we address what we know? We don't have to do a study to know why a village is not as walkable as it ought to be. And we know the problems that people have crossing Main Street. I mean, these are all elements of walkability that you should be able to cross, have more crosswalks and so on. So we've been batting our head on this for years and years and years. And I think what we have to talk about is, do we want to make this an important issue? And in that case, do we want to approach all the people who have any power in the matter and ask them, what are they prepared to do? I mean, the Henry Du Bois Project is certainly a major element in making a more walkable community when it happens. So I just want to get down to earth on this stuff. Okay.
So I hear that, but at the same time, like, we know what we need, but a lot of what we need is money in order. The sidewalks are very, very expensive, and crosswalks require approval and funding from DOT. And so often the way these things work seem to be, you get a planning grant, and you get some expert designers to kind of come up with some good visions. And then once you get that, you use that to try to secure government grants to actually get approved to do the work. So that seems like that's what this Walk Bike Duchess report presumably is an example of that, Michael.
Yes. I was going to also, maybe to address Judy's point, is how about suggesting something that actually would make some money for the village and the town? And that is any car that blocks sidewalk, all those driveways up and down Main Street, for example, is a finable event. Right now, there's an ordinance, I know for the village, I don't know what the town's ordinance is. It says you can't block it, but there's no fine attached to it, which doesn't really help because you could be freely disregarded. I mean, the police don't have really any compelling reason to issue a ticket if you're going to go to court for what? If it was like $100 fine for blocking access to a sidewalk because you're waiting to make a left turn, well, that would get some people's attention and certainly put some money into the town's coffers. I mean, anyway, there's an example of something that could be done to make things a little more walkable, because it's really tough just to walk down Main Street.
So that's, what do you think, Neil? Is that the kind of thing that would generate anywhere near the revenue stream that would do more than put the equivalent of pennies in pockets when we need millions?
Sidewalks cost $1 million a mile. There is a strong reluctance on the part of the police to over-police right now because of the climate nationally. The courts are actually closed with COVID anyway, so like we're not even having court. But I don't know. It's we would need a lot of money, and then that money wouldn't go necessarily. We end up spending more. If the police give out a $100 fine, they have to go to court, and they have to be in court for 4 hours, and it costs us more in overtime than we made on the fine. And we have no more money. It's not like we then get more money to then build sidewalks. Sorry to be a pessimist here.
I would argue that there's like a lot of money on the table every single day on those streets. And, when they write out a ticket, their court date's already established when they're writing out a ticket for a violation. So they're going to be in court that day anyway. And if they wrote out if they just walked themselves down the street, they could probably write tickets from one end to the other and come back and do it again. So it's, I think it's, there are other communities that do that kind of enforcement, like in Florida, for example. And it's a real revenue maker for the towns.
Do we have a document that exists about a document that we could call obstacles to walkability in New Paltz Village and town? Just list the obstacles and then, approach all the governments involved and see if there's any of the obstacles we can chip away at.
Well, that's what that walk bike study does for Dutchess, is to identify, because they're very common. It's not just New Paltz. I mean, you can go to any community in Ulster County and they have got the same problems.
But Judy's asking if New Paltz when's the most recent document with New Paltz? We've had like sidewalk master plan reports in the last couple decades. Was it in the last decade or was it the previous decade? But that's just sidewalks specifically. I know I can dig through I'm not good at remembering dates of this stuff. I can dig through my own personal folder and find, it would take a little while, but I could find when some of these reports are. But Michael seems to be our better brain on that front of remembering a lot of these reports.
Well, we did a lot of work over the years on Henry Du Bois on trying to establish a much greater walkability there, and some of it's been done and some of it is pending. But that's an example of the amount of time and energy and force that you have to put in on any single project. So, that's what I mean. Let's identify the obstacles, and what Michael's been talking about is certainly something that could happen. It seems to me that there could be better enforcement that would involve sitting down and meeting with the police department, talking with them about it.
Yes.
So I just pasted in the sidewalk master plan it's from 2008. So 13 years ago. I mean, that's probably part of what Judy's talking about. It's obviously not all about sidewalks, but the gaps in sidewalks is certainly a substantial portion of the danger for walkability. So where should we go with this? It started off with a plan that it sounds like there's consensus that we shouldn't try to rush a major workload with a small payoff event initiative, even if it sounds nice. Walkability Action Institute. So it kind of turned more into a conversation of feeling out whether it would be worth our while to propose a planning grant to kind of copy for our town what Dutchess did. I assume it would be saying that our town, right, Neil, we'd have like New Paltz proposing a planning grant to do what the county of Dutchess did.
I was thinking county-wide.
Oh,
Yeah,
we would.
But
The bike ped committee of New Paltz and you as supervisor would try to nudge the county to do a county version of what.
yeah, I mean,
What
if not,
Dutchess said.
maybe
Okay.
not county-wide, or even if it's just like, okay, let's focus on the more urban areas of the county. Maybe it would be Kingston, New Paltz, Rosendale, Gardner,
Yes.
Lloyd, something like that, So, I mean, I'm happy to have a conversation with David about it. Brian, this is David Stoss and Brian Slack. Sorry, either one, probably Brian.
Okay, so we'll pass the baton to you for now, that you can have that starting conversation and then fill us in.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Okay. So then the other item, I think Janelle's on another phone call, at least for the second. So the other item was about another idea that that Dan Sirachi had also funneled to Janelle. Was in the intersection action plan. Do you want to share Janelle, what that was?
Yeah, sorry, I just got an interruption of a phone call, but it was exciting for me. I just got a call from a doctor's office that I have a vaccine appointment.
All right.
Yay.
Hey,
Yay.
and I'm gonna probably have to field another call in about 10 or 15 minutes from that office. So
Sure.
I apologize for that. So this intersection action plan, I really don't know more than what I sent in the email. But it sounds like it's Dan Sirachi is launching the new program with NYSERDA. He must have funding through NYSERDA to do a complete street workshop specifically with the idea of working on specific intersections. And I know that's a key issue for us. My hesitation is, oh man, we just, one that I thought would be a slam dunk, just simply painting diagonal crosswalks, that was so, I thought, low-hanging fruit. And to have that be struck down because we don't have ADA compliant
Curb cuts.
I'm left feeling like, okay, we could come up with this grand plan, and will any of them ever pass muster with DOT? Is it worth doing? Thoughts?
Well, that goes back to, as was just pointed out by Michael, the Section 8 DOT is not like other DOTs.
No.
And that is, they are very, very, very passive on anything but moving cars as efficiently as possible. And we know that. We know that. We've got years of proof of that. And I remember back before COVID, my thought was to have a sort of a proper march on DOT. That is a delegation of a large number of people with a list of things that we want them to do that are like the example that you're just talking about.
So,
You know.
I'll tell Dan Sirachi that part of our intersection action plan would have to be changing of the guard DOT Section 8.
Yeah.
Well, changing the attitudes at least, there are some good people there, but they don't seem to be able to make a change in their policies. So I think that, that keeps coming up. It bobs to the surface every time and we get stymied on something. The DOT doesn't want it. They don't want to shake anything. They don't want to,
I would suggest staying in touch with him about this because it has less restriction. I mean, the Walkability Action Institute had so many, things you had to commit to. This is more, it's free, it's open to members of the public. So I can stay in touch with him and get more details as they become available. It'd be nice to have a really inspired intersection plan ready to go should there finally be some movement with our DOT's willingness to accept them.
Yeah, well, we could also bring the intersection plan to the DOT and sit down with them.
Mm-hmm.
If we had a forceful enough delegation to make that happen.
Yeah. So with the blessing of this group, I will just simply get back in touch with Dan and explain why WAI is not going to be a go for New Paltz, but that the intersection action plan is something that we'd like to stay in touch with him on, and I'll tell him, what our concern. I actually was going to share with him some of the specifics about the last proposal that we did that was not accepted.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So good to people. This is a good segue to the topic we dealt with last week about requesting no right on red signage and rule making at the few intersections that don't already have that no right on red rule. And if I remember correctly, where we left off was we were just going to survey the intersections to confirm which ones do prohibit rights on red and which ones don't. Is that right? That we're
right. There's 3 that do not, and 3
Okay.
that do. And so the ones that do prohibit right on red is Manheim and Maine, Maine and 208, and North Front and 32.
okay. So the ones that
Currently no right on red.
the ones
Right.
that prohibit right on red, you said Manheim and
208 Main Street,
208 in Maine.
North Front, and 32. We're Pegasus that.
Yes.
And the 3 that allow right on red are Ohioville, Putt Corners, and Cherry Hill. And those 3 are all on the Empire State Trail. So I talked to several people already about the feasibility of trying to get this through. Kingston, for their part, their Complete Streets is actually trying to do something similar with a couple of theirs. So I'm going to try to talk to, or I have talked about Denison in the past, about having some common language in our ask so that then DOT is presented with multiple cases of this. I also talked to Scott Butler, our police lieutenant, about the issue of enforcement at stop signs, and also this particular issue about the right on red, because he admitted, definitely is aware that it's impossible to cross the street at any intersection where there's right on red, because there's never a safe time to do so. Even when you press the button, you know, it's on one side it says walk, and the other side is people make the right turn and they're going to go right through you. So when I told him about trying to get that prohibited, he said that would give them a great tool towards enforcement, because then people are running a red light. Right now, you know, it's a fuzzy area, and the police have been, you know, somewhat reluctant to try to enforce something that they can't really have something to specifically say. Did you stop for 2 seconds? That's a judgment call. But if there's no right on red, if there's no right on red, then it's definitely a violation, and that would help him. And he added that it would help also for the police and their enforcement if there was an education component. And I'd suggest, well, maybe we should do some signage, like New Paltz is a bike hike town, and then list the 3 things under it. You know, no right on red, you know, bike in lane, must stop on every crosswalk. So somebody coming off 87 sees it right away, and ditto if somebody riding on 299 or coming into the town village, they would see these are the 3 things. This is a bike hike town. Sort of a graphic would be very nice, and he'd really like that idea, because then it's clear, it's evident, and you created this different kind of community space. New York City has no right on red, and there are other communities where there's large parts of them that have no right on red, in Rochester and elsewhere. So it's not like we're trying to invent the wheel here, or in this case, de-invent the wheel, because the right on red came as a so-called fuel savings measure in the 70s, and the last place I think was Massachusetts that passed it in 1980. So it's been around, and there's been a lot of evaluations of, you know, fatalities and injuries at intersections as a result of this, and they're pretty negative, actually. Like 4% of bicycle pedestrian encounters with cars occur on the road, but 26% happen at intersections. Right away, that tells you intersections are a troubled space right away.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
It has everything to do with walkability, to
Yes.
presume that you can cross the street where there's no right on red and not get struck by a car. I mean, that makes it a much more walkable situation for people. So
Yeah,
it certainly is, that's part of it.
And Cherry Hill is a real challenge because of across Main Street, because of that extra right turn lane. People have a longer distance to cross the street. So eliminating that right on red there would be really helpful for somebody trying to go to the ShopRite or the Tops Plaza.
Does the DOT have anything to say about right on red?
Oh yeah, they have plenty of things.
Yeah. I mean, would we be up against DOT if we did that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I asked Bill Gorton, who was the former regional director of Region 8, and Bob Dennison, who was the chief engineer for DOT, to provide me with some language that might be helpful. I'd asked Paul Winkeller, the former president of the New York Bike Coalition. I said, what would be a hierarchy of whereases to put in that thing that would be very successful? And he laughingly responded, I said, if he knew the answer to that, he would have been much more successful at Bike Coalition. It's facing off with DOT, but it's the issue is we're trying to build ecotourism here, right? New Paltz is a gateway for the county and the greater Catskill region. And there should be a sensibility that, things are a little different here. If you've been coming on, you came up from New Jersey, don't expect to just blow through a stop sign here or blow through right on red.
What are they, do you know, Michael, do you know what the plan is for the red light they're expecting to put at the bottom of Du Bois and 32?
No, you have to ask Neil and Tim about that.
Is Neil still around? Is Neil?
Yeah, I had another call. I had another call I had to take. I'm back now. Sorry.
All right. Do you happen to know, or is that a village matter? At the bottom of Henry Du Bois, at the bottom of Du Bois, where my understanding at the Stewart's there's going to be a light, and there has never been a light. So do you know what the plan is as to whether people will make a right turn when that light is red? Because right now you can't. Your guess is what?
No. I'm assuming not, there are not many right on reds in New Paltz.
Well, that's just what you missed just now, that Michael was pointing out. There are 3, and there are 3 others that are not right on red. So that's sort of half and half.
And the ones that are part of the ones that are part of the Empire State Trail are all allowing right on reds, and so our bad luck could be that this would be the 4th one that's part of the Empire State Trail. So
there's also a signalized intersection at the where the 87 entrance is, and they've got a full lane. So there's a right lane that exits there. And actually, it's kind of ironic that there's a park and ride location where you think, oh, I can drive up to New Paltz, park here, and then ride my bike. There is no plan that DOT put together to access the Empire State Trail from that parking lot as a bicyclist. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed it or tried to cross the street there, but there's no crosswalks. In fact, there's no way that you can go from the park. Well, you have to go the opposite direction on the sidewalk to put corners to actually get to the Empire State Trail.
Yep. So what do we want to do on this? I think this is a good issue. We talked about for quite a while. They're right on red. Do we have an action plan?
right. So yeah, what is the best plan for this? These things get tricky when we need DOT sign off. So is this something where you, Neil, like you and Tim would be putting in a request to DOT, or is it something that we as a committee should be directly
How about
making
a
the
town
request?
village resolution, a joint resolution calling on DOT, with all those whereases, it's, necessary for economic development and necessary for the safety, go through all that whole list. I bet, like I said, I asked a couple other people to supply some language for that. Put together that.
So I was gonna,
and
I still
then
have to go
submit
check
that.
this.
All right.
But
Sorry.
you said there are 3 that are right on red and 3 that are not?
Right.
And so which ones are right on red?
Right now, Ohioville, Putt Corners.
That are not right on red.
Wait, not,
No, Michael's saying that are right on red.
yeah, they're
Okay.
allowed right on red. Ohioville, Putt Corners, and what's the other one?
Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill. And then I excluded the one from 87 because it's a peculiar intersection. But that's also, there's no, there's a right turn lane there. So it's not exactly subject to the same kind of, right on red, no right on red. So those are the 3, Ohioville, Putt Corners, and Cherry Hill. And those are all on the Empire State Trail.
So Neil, Michael was suggesting maybe a resolution from the village and town boards. Is that what you said, Michael?
I would say that would be a really good route.
I mean,
to
we
go.
could start by asking them what their plans are.
Asking
and
who?
DOT, what their plans are for that light.
Stewart's
It's gonna
light.
be
You mean the
the
Du
Stewart's
Bois
light. Yes, yeah. Is there gonna be a right on red at that, when you're on Henry W? I mean, I think right now, I'm trying to remember the Stewart's plan. You can only turn into Stewart's when you're going north on 32. And I think you can only, they're limiting how you can enter and exit from Stewart's. But I'll ask about the light, if that's going to be a right on red for that.
So first get information on this new intersection to be put in place, and then what do you think after that is the next step
And
to,
that won't, so there's going to be, you're going to be able to cross at Henry W. You're going to be able to cross 32 and get onto the rail trail. So as a bicyclist, you shouldn't be crossing, the right on red shouldn't interfere with you as a bicyclist or a pedestrian anyway. If people are turning right on red on Henry W.
Well, if you're
Go
going
north
to
on
go,
32.
you're going to go south on 32 at that point, you would cross the street and then make your left onto the rail trail, or that bikeable shoulder that's there right in front of that physical therapy place and the pizza.
And then you'd go down to 32 the next block? I mean, you go down to the rail trail on the next block?
No, not go to the rail trail at all. I mean, you
Oh.
want to just go to the village to
Okay,
go to Rock and
Yeah.
Snow or someplace else.
yeah, okay,
Rocking down
right.
32.
okay. It's
But
not,
if
'cause-
you're gonna cross the light at a green light, if someone's taking a right on red, why would it matter to you? If you're on your bike, you're waiting till it turns green. If they're at a red light and they want to turn right, you're stopped at the red light.
So is there going to be a
Why would it-
crosswalk at that intersection so pedestrians might go? The
Yes,
bicyclists.
there's going to be a crosswalk.
Yes.
There's going to be a crosswalk I'm assuming, I don't know if there'll be a crosswalk on both on the north and south side of Henry W. My impression was there's going to be a crosswalk on the south side of Henry W. where the bike trail is going to, the shared use path is going to be on the south side of Henry W. next to Stewart's. And that is where the crosswalk is going to be for people that use the shared use path, and that's where the signal will be that you push. And then bicyclists and pedestrians will cross there and then go straight across the parking lot to the Walker Valley Rail Trail if they're going that way, or I guess they will walk to the, walk on the west side of the road if they're going to walk into the village. Or I guess they could walk on the east side of the road. Then if they're just walking, they don't
But
need to cross the street.
I think the concern is if rights on red are allowed as they are at Ohioville, Cherry Hill, and Putt Corners, then it makes it unsafe for the pedestrians to cross even when they have the signal authorizing them to cross.
But they wouldn't be crossing on. I don't think there's going to be a crosswalk on. There's not going to be 4 crosswalks on that intersection. I don't think. I think
Right.
there's going to be a crosswalk only on the south side of Henry W. across. That's where the signal is going to be. I don't think there's going to be a signal on the north and a button
Right.
to push on the north and south side of Henry W. I would doubt that.
But regardless, if you're at Stewart, to be Stewart's, and you're crossing to get over to Village Pizza side, if there's a car at that red light pointing northward and it wants to take a right going up to Henry W., if it can take a right on red, it becomes unsafe for you to cross. Like it regardless of which of the 4 options, there's a crosswalk for you to cross.
I agree. Yeah, that would you wouldn't want right on red there. Like you would want an all stop.
Yeah.
like at Front Street.
Front Street's not all stop.
Yeah, the Front Street, you have to wait for the light to turn if you're in a car.
Yes, no right on red.
Right.
Yes, but when you're crossing Front Street, right? So if I'm standing on Front and I am crossing 32, right? And
Yeah.
there's someone on the west side of Front Street next to Pegasus. And
Right.
the red light on 30, the light turns red on 32, so I can cross 32. They have a green light and they can
Mhm.
turn right. And
Yeah.
I've almost been hit there and I've complained
Yep.
about that
Yep.
because it's
Yes,
it's not an all stop. And the response that I've received from DOT is that, well, if we do an all stop, it just slows traffic down too much. and they said we have all stops. We're one of the few towns in all of Ulster County to have all stops. So we have it at 32 and Chestnut, and I think there's another one in town that's an all stop as well, but I forget which one.
Anaheim.
Manheim, yeah, you're right, that's right.
Yeah.
Right in front of the middle school, or next to
And
them.
they don't like putting those in,
No, they don't like doing
which is
anything.
enraging because that's what's safe for bicyclists and pedestrians.
Yep.
If you can't see, if you're blind and you're crossing at North Front and it tells you to cross, you don't realize that the cars that are, parallel to you can run you over if they're turning left or right.
Exactly. So we'll inquire. Oh, go ahead, Judy.
Well, it's just once again, every pathway we go down, we bump up against the DOT. And I think that, that's every single issue, practically every single issue comes to the DOT desire to move traffic quickly. And I think this is something we really have to confront, and we have to confront it with more than just talk. Anyway.
So before our next meeting, I'll get together some language from some other people on a potential resolution. And also probably get some more feedback from other people at DOT that I know. I mean, some of the other regions in our state actually are quite cooperative and helpful.
Mhm.
And, I've seen a couple of things and I couldn't believe that a town had done that. And when I made some inquiries, I found that DOT agreed. They signed off on it. No problem.
We have a new situation to bring to the attention of DOT, which is going to be a lot more cyclists in the town. And, with the increase in people fleeing New York City, there's a lot more pedestrians. And do they want to be responsible for the kind of accidents that can occur if it's not going to be made safer?
Yeah, and also the U.S. DOT is now headed up by a former mayor who actually did these things.
Buttigieg. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And
right.
His predecessors have been things like, from the shipping industry or the train industry, the container industry, So maybe I think there's some hope to do that.
That's a good thought. That would he be likely to be communicating to the local DOTs?
Well, to the states are getting the money, and
Yeah.
things like safety for all users is a key thing for for transportation in our communities. And I think it's a great chance.
Yeah,
And
that's a good.
the only way you can talk to DOT is with money. You threaten their source of money, or
Yeah.
slow down money that's being transferred to them from the feds. Then you got a chance.
So
well,
one question that that Neil brought up there is, should we be asking for all stops and go even bigger than asking for no right on red? Because as Neil is saying, the problem at North Front is not the right on red. It's the problem is actually the right on green. That you can have press the pedestrian button on the intersection. It's your turn to go, but either a car coming down on front turns and hits you, or a car coming up on front from Augusta's, comes, and the rail trail comes up and turns and hits you. So if I'm hearing Neil right, we should maybe go bigger and ask for all stops at like we have at Manheim, and like we have at by Lola's / Mobile at the at the 208 intersection with Maine. Is that too big of an ask, where it would just up the chances of having DOT just knock down the request, or would we
I think
want
it's a good ask. I think that, a letter should be sent from the bike ped to the town and village boards saying that, we would like to ask for, all stop for the stewards, like.
For that one,
Can't hurt
definitely.
to ask. Yeah.
Definitely. You won't get it for things like Ohioville or Puck Corners.
So don't even ask because you don't want to over ask.
Well,
Okay.
and it's also both, well, at least the Puck Corners one's a really complicated intersection because there's a huge amount of traffic goes through there.
mean, and this one's brand new. They're still working on it,
Yep.
and we have the Empire Trail crossing right there. That whole area is going crazy, right? There's going to be, there's the Zero Place. There's, Stewart's is going to be there now. The Napa store is going to be an apartment building. I've heard rumors that Agway and the Gateway building are, going to be apartments possibly. So we're looking at a lot of density there, and that means more people walking around and crossing that street. And we want them to be safe.
Yep.
Yeah, that word density is exactly what has been the issue for years and years. The village was calling for that, was that section of road, the 32 going north, that they wanted to have, instead of urban sprawl, to have density there. And those of us who live nearby have mixed feelings about it, but in terms of planning, it's a good thing. It's happening.
Very good.
So-
Okay, so Michael, we'll wait on you, Michael, to get some language and
An action plan.
an action plan. And Neil, you were going to check with DOT to see what the current plan is for Stewart's. So before we ask for an all stop, we want to find out what the current.
Well, the more I think about it, it may be that, I think if you guys send us that letter, then we'll ask and we'll say, this is what the bike ped wants. And we're wondering. And then we can push back when they say no.
Is there a plan for a right turn lane on Du Bois that go north on 32? Are they going to cannibalize any potential for the bikes to use that?
I have to go back and look to see if I have some of the plans and stuff. I don't know off the top of my head.
Because if there's a
I think
light
there's
there, then nothing's really going to hold up cars like, before, with no light, somebody wants to turn left there, it slows down traffic, but with a light signalized entirely, it's not slowing any traffic because people will be able to, the light changes, they turn left, and the car behind them can go left or right.
I doubt there's enough room for that because, I'd have to go back and look. I'd be surprised if there's a right turn lane there, just because, they're adding, a lot, with the path, and then the road has to be wider there, at the bottom, because cars are going to be turning into Stewart's. So I think it's going to be a slightly wider lane at the bottom of Henry W. So the trucks can turn into Stewart's as they go up Henry W. and then take a right into Stewart's.
There's also
they're
that.
calling for.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything else.
Well, there's a parking lot there with a building that has gone through many, many different iterations, shall we say, and it's businesses now. It was once a hardware store, but there's a big parking lot,
Right.
and people would sometimes cut through that parking lot until they put up barriers. But that's where there's space if they wanted to give up their parking lot. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Are we going to have a report on current progress on Henry Du Bois?
We're still waiting to hear back from DOT about the plan. I mean, these things take a long time. Once we hear back from DOT, there'll be another public meeting, and that we haven't. Dan's on the committee, but it was submitted, I don't know, sometime in the fall, and we're still waiting to hear back.
How many months have passed since this DOT received it?
I think it was sent in before Christmas. So, you know, I thought we thought we'd get it back, but usually these things take 6 to 8 weeks.
Mhm.
You know,
Could you let the committee know before our next agenda whether there has to be some pressure put on the DOT on this issue? Among many.
no, I mean, they're working on it. I mean, it's, you know, they know, like, believe me, the planners, they put pressure on them. You know, they send emails, we ask for updates. It's, you know, it's within the expected timeline. You know, I think they had some questions that need to be clarified, and then, you know, the answers go back and forth. But they're, you know, it's on schedule.
Okay, you don't feel like they're dragging their feet on this?
No, not on this. We're holding their feet to the fire on this one. The planners, the engineers that are doing this, you know, Dan's met them. They're very, very good at what they do.
Okay.
The other item that is a carryover from last month is whether we want to, is our support for hosting an event for Celebrate Trails Day on April 24th. So we're 2 months out. And so if we're going to do anything substantial, then that's going to involve us doing some out of meeting work before our next meeting. As I recall from our last meeting, you know, one idea was really more about social media hashtags and just, you know, kind of just putting the word out to say, if any of you in New Paltz go out on trails, here's a day where it's, you know, a special day to do so, and just take a picture of yourself on the trail and tag it. Do we want to limit our involvement of Celebrate Trails Day to that, to just kind of doing a little bit of promotion of please use social media to publicize, or do we want to try to do anything more substantial in terms of promotional materials, getting in newspapers, having socially distant
Events.
walks or bike events? Or is that more than we feel we have capacity to try to pull off, given that the clock is ticking?
Well, I can tell you one thing from my point of view. Henry Du Bois is not going to be ready for people to bike safely up to get to the point where they can join the rail trail on the flat to get to the bridge. And that would be a really nice ride. So maybe we can appeal to people with pickup trucks who could take some of the senior riders, of which I am the unofficial representative, to get them up Henry Du Bois.
I should just ask Neil, I think you mentioned before there's a weight restriction on Henry Du Bois and of 2.5 tons. Was that right, Neil?
Forget off the top of my head, you know, the village has a weight restriction on Henry W. I think from 32 up to Colonial Drive. The town does not have a weight restriction. So we will probably be putting a weight restriction on Henry W. just to kind of keep it uniform and with better signage. You know, one of the complaints from residents is that there are trucks that go on it, and you know, when you think about it, you know, they start down it, they don't realize there's a weight restriction until they get halfway down the road, and then they're kind of stuck. And then,
so what is the weight? How much weight is legal in the village?
I'd have to, you know, it's basically you know, like one of the heavy duty, you know, like a fancy pickup truck, you know, one of these heavy duty pickup trucks. You know, you shouldn't be sending.
Yeah, a full size pickup is 10,000 to 14,000 pounds. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's something like that.
an ordinary
Yeah, I can look it
pickup
up.
with a ordinary pickup carrying a couple of bikes would not, I don't think that would, I mean, just an ordinary one, not a fancy one.
Yeah.
So for Celebrate Trails Day, I don't know, I had in my head an image more of River to Ridge or Rail Trail, like
Yeah.
that it was kind of about celebrating not just like shoulders on roads, but it's really about getting out on nature trails. That's what I recall. So
That was my vision more too. Mhm.
so was it you, Judy? You were the one who suggested put that on
I
our.
suggested it, but looking back on the last few years, we often ran into weather in April. So if whatever we decide to do should have a couple of, a bad weather day
Well,
Right.
possibilities.
that's one advantage of doing this virtually and just having people, do selfies and hashtags because they
Yeah.
can go the next day or
Right.
we could maybe do it for a week rather than a day. So that
That's true. Yeah, that's a good
Mhm.
idea.
during the week, yeah.
It's a good idea.
So
Start, yeah.
it's less work in terms of not having to have a date and have people show up at a time and a place, but it's still work in terms of doing a lot of publicizing and having some kind of imagery or a JPEG or a PDF or some kind of online flyer that you're then shooting out to various groups and various social media sites. So that's not traditionally been something that we as a committee have done. But do we want to try to take that on? Or does Celebrate Trails already have everything all so they already have something like that all prepackaged and we just take their PDFs or JPEGs and just shoot them out on social media? I'm trying to remember.
Judy, do they already have like a media package?
Yeah. Who does?
I'm asking.
Celebrate Rail Trails
All I
organization.
know is there's a lot of newer people in town. There are people coming and that a lot of people do not know what a nice ride it would be from North Putt Corners across the road and in the rail. You can go safely all the way to the bridge, to the walkway. But there's that one obstacle of getting up Henry Du Bois unless you already live to the west of it, to the east of it rather. So, I think that maybe we could get a few people with bike racks and so forth to help each other, help other people to get up there. That would be our contribution to make it possible for people who might not think that they could do it to assist them to do it. But it would be a lovely ride. And I think the idea of making it a week-long project and, just publicizing it on behalf of the committee, I think would be a very good thing to do.
One thing it could do is maybe just give more visibility to our committee. I think that would benefit. I'm really glad that Hans and Shanna are here because we need to grow our committee and have more active members, and anything we can do to grow ourselves, I think is a good thing. Judy, I was asking before, do you know, is there like a national organization? And a lot of times they'll have like a media package so we can just grab their images or whatever. Was this part of a?
Yeah, no, it is that. I can answer that. I mean, if you're on the Google Doc that that I have with our agenda right now, it's it's item number 6 on our document, and if you hover over Celebrate Rails Trail or you click it, it opens up a link, and it's railstotrails.org
Right.
/experience-trails/opening-day or something. So, but I don't see, I'm looking at it right now to see if there's a media packet. There's like a place where you can RSVP so that say, I will celebrate.
I found one. There's a Celebrate Rails to Trails media packet.
Oh, good.
And there's customizable templates view templates on Google Drive.
Partners
I don't
tool.
have the Google Doc thing here for you, but I'll email this to you right now, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it would be easy enough just to grab things here. And I could certainly promote it as part of Climate Smart. We have, you know, Facebook and Instagram. What do we have for social media? We have a Facebook page, right?
For Bike Ped, we do have a Facebook page. I doubt it gets a ton of views. So, you know, we could certainly post it there, but it would be also be good to post it on the New Paltz Facebook page and, you know, post it on other
Right.
local.
And then what would our hashtag be? Is it,
I think they have a,
but would we want it to be specific to New Paltz so that
okay.
that way we could do a search on it and know how many people, you know, actually did this representing New Paltz?
Right. I mean, we could, like, they have a hashtag that's, or I'm just seeing, looking on their webpage, that it's, they have something in quotes called Celebrate Trails at Home. And it could be like Celebrate New Paltz Trails or something like that. Or I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience working with hashtags. Any good ideas of that?
I wonder,
New Paltz Trails. What was that, Janelle?
I wonder, Shana, do you pronounce your name Shana?
Shauna.
Shauna, sorry. I just wonder, I think you said that you have some interest in this issue. I wonder if this is something that you might be interested in taking on as a little project.
I could help with the social media part if it's doing the hashtags for Twitter and Instagram. Maybe we could make an announcement on Strava, since a lot of bikers are always on Strava.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
And Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Strava. The way to really blow this up and get it much more publicized would be if the organizations behind the super successful trails here locally would want to get behind it. You know, if the Open Space Institute, Mohonk Preserve, Minnewaska, the rail trail, like if you know, this may or may not already be on their radar screen. You know, when you're in the work of maintaining trails, then they probably already know about this. And so it seems like it might be, at least if we're going to be starting to do something small, it might be worth at least just checking in with the players to say, hey, do any of you have any interest in promoting this, or is it on your radar screen? And then if they want to promote it, then we basically are just sharing their media kits and their publicity. If they decline and they say, yeah, we heard about it, but we're not going to be able to pull that off, then we can kind of just do our small creation. So my question is, do you guys agree? Like, is it worth just checking in with some of these organizations to see if it's on their radar screen and if they have any interest, or if they've already initiated this as a plan? Is it, who would be the people to contact?
I'll send an email. I'll CC you on it, Dan.
Oh, okay.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. So that'll be the first step, and then beyond, if like they kind of all decline, then we'll just kind of do it low scale, of come up with a hashtag and just send out to our various social media outlets, and we can all just try to share it, and
Yeah.
it'll just be a little something. We won't have any huge aspirations, but it'll just be New Paltz sharing in what way we can about this good idea that's national.
And,
Okay.
we, years ago, am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Years ago, the Bike Ped Committee sponsored a ride to the walkway. And without a lot of fuss, there were probably 25, 30 people that met. So I think there's a potential group of people that would love to be part of a large group. And, we could have meeting points, like where they tore down the firehouse there. I think it's an empty lot at the moment on the top of Du Bois and North Putt Corners. You could have a few places where people could gather and, ride together. So I think, and posters publicize things very nice, posters in store windows and so on. So if we could
So
do
would
something
you,
like that.
are you saying you would support our committee putting the time into actually organizing physical walks or rides?
Yeah.
Well, I think, there wouldn't be a lot of people involved, but, some of us, I've become very conscious of the limitations of being able to get up to the top,
Right. But again, I don't know. I was always associating with this particular Celebrate Trails that it was really more about like river to ridge and rail trail, like off-road trails. So I'm not thinking of the Empire State Trail in that section is an on-road trail. So if the thing that we're planning is for Celebrate Trails Day is more of an off-road trail, it would just be about doing the rail trail or doing river to ridge.
No, but the thing is that most of the trail now to the walkway is off-road, most of it. And where it isn't is on a very wide shoulder. So, it's primarily off-road.
True.
It's a question that there's a weak link in it, and that's getting to the top, whether it's Henry Du Bois or whether it's on the other side of Main Street. But that hill is formidable for people. And, if they don't have motors on their bikes.
Yeah. Do we want to be getting in the business of trying to organize specific times and rides with the pandemic factor of like social distancing and all that right now?
No, I think the idea of saying it's going to be for a week and then some of us can organize and some of us, it doesn't have to be a heavy duty thing for the bike today. Just like publicizing it and declaring it, getting some publicity for it. Newspaper can give you publicity too. There are people around who would like to do that. It's not a big deal. They'd like to be among their fellows.
Great.
That's what I think anyway. It'd be a nice way to welcome spring. And when you're out there on a
I
bike,
think we could do both. I think if there's an interest in doing something like that, there's probably some people that would enjoy it. But I also think we could do something as low key as, just saying, Bike Ped, like we're celebrating this, and tell everyone else, like, take a picture of yourself and put it on on your Instagram, or we don't have an Instagram that I know of, or put it on the Bike Ped's Facebook page, and just like it'll give people a chance to just say something, I don't know, and then like all we're doing is putting the we're preparing the ground and letting other people plant the seeds. And if we want to do more than that, we can do more than that. But if not, at least we did something like this.
Yeah.
Could use it as a warm up because there's a bunch of other things. There's a Bike to Work week coming up in May, and then there's World Bike Day is June the 3rd. And of course, being in the middle of it being a weekday, it might affect some people, but there's no reason we can't do something then as well. I don't know, has anybody ever gone on any of those bike-friendly Kingston rides and stuff? Because they've been doing a wonderful thing for a few years now, and Kingston, of course, has many destinations within the city of Kingston that and they take a large group of people and that bike. We bike some really neat routes, and I have some routes that cross town there. How to avoid Main Street and get from Putt Corners to the rail trail. And not use Henry Du Bois either.
So we are at 8:30. So we covered some good ground. We have a few items that a couple of us have agreed to take care of and get back to me at least, or get back to others about. So I'll try to keep the minutes as concise as possible, and have those delegated tasks clarified in the minutes. And then there's many other items that we didn't tackle this month, but I think we got to most of the priorities. So thank you all. And any final words before we close out our weird world of Zoom?
The
Yeah.
document I sent you is going to be on the document.
I already put it there. Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and then anybody who wants to ski in my backyard, I have access to 90 acres, and the owner is not around.
Oh, you mean your neighbor's not there?
My neighbor sold the place to a multimillionaire who lives in New York, and there doesn't seems to be any objection to her using the back 90, I call it.
Wow.
I mean, I ski from my front steps right through my backyard onto 90 acres. Beautiful. Mostly flat.
Well, maybe it's time to
What?
reopen that.
Yep, on that.
Yeah, well, it can't be a formal thing, but I'm just saying, if you want to visit me, I can get you out there.
Okay.
Hashtag Steve,
Okay,
thank you.
and with snow, it is really seize the time. It's not, there's no guarantees.
Yeah,
Once it rains and freezes, then you can't do it
Hmm.
till the next
Exactly.
snow.
They have a
Yeah.
Ginsu groomer.
Yeah, Minnewaska does magic with the ice. It's true. All right. Well, let's call this to a close. So thank you all for coming. I'll check back in with you, Hans, and Shauna, just to kind of see where you guys are at. I know it's strange to be joining our meetings with virtually instead of actually in person, but let's be respectful of time. So I'll log off from this meeting. Thank you all for joining, and don't hesitate to be in touch about anything between now and our next meeting, which will be I think they're all on the 4th Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you,
Signing
Dan.
off. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.